In this lecture, we'll be first of all quickly taking a look at how to create a new function with Azure Cosmos DB as an input parameter. So here we have created a function called HTTP trigger, and clicking on this one will basically ask you to choose the method which you want for this trigger. So let's go with get as the method and then save this. You can see it says updating binding, and once that's done, you'll be able to go ahead and choose add input. Now here, when you click on this, you'll be getting this option, and by default we have this Azure Blob Storage as the binding type. You can choose Azure Cosmos DB if you want it to come from the database. Leave this as input document only. Now the database name in your case would be different, but here it is did you apply, and then the collection name over here. So you can say did you apply DB. Now if you have confusion with these two, you can see over here Cosmos DB database where data will be read and database collection where data will be read. So this is the collection name, this is the database name, and then obviously the connection string needs to be specified, and as we have mentioned it in our configuration settings as I demonstrated earlier, it's picking it from there. And lastly, if you see, we have this SQL query. So you can send your query parameter over here like I was demonstrating earlier, where we were based on the email ID, we were selecting a few things. So it's like over here we can write the query select all from C. You can have any character here. I'm just writing C because it represents container. So select all from C where, and then the parameter name. So c.email is equal to, and the parameter that will be passed over here is this email. So this automatically gets mapped, and then the data is returned as an input document. So that being said, now let's go ahead and look at one of the functions where we are able to create candidates. Now over here, this is the method where we are saving the applicants, and every applicant, once they have the account, they can update their profile along with their resume and all. So if I have to show that to you, let's go to the website, and here we'll be signing in as one of the candidates. So here you can see that I'm logged in as a candidate or applicant, and these are the jobs where I've applied. Now if I go to my email ID, you'll be seeing this information that is coming up. So when we click save, this is the method that gets called, save applicants. And here you can see that we are storing it in our Cosmos DB applicants collection, and the requirements for this is exactly the same as we had for earlier methods, like we are making use of the Cosmos client and JSON web token. Then we have these parameters, and once the email is verified, then we go ahead and basically store everything in our database container. So we are storing email, first name, last name, year, graduated, contact email, phone number. The resume, as you can see, is coming from the blob storage. So we have a directory of sorts over there, and then we are just appending the resume name over here. Otherwise, if it's not there, then we are saying it as empty, and then the date when it was updated or created. So once that's done, it simply returns candidate saved successfully. Now let's go ahead and take a look at some of the other methods related to candidate. So I was just mentioning that these are the jobs which I've applied to, and that you can get from this method called get candidate jobs. So let's click on this, and here you can see again we have the input Cosmos DB. Clicking on this will open up a model dialog, and here again you can see that from this candidate jobs table we are saying get me all the jobs where the email ID is this. So when we are requesting for all the jobs of a candidate, we are sending the candidate's email ID, and it returns us all the jobs mapped to that particular email ID. So if I now go to code and test, here you can see that we are exporting this over here, context requirement and input document, and then again the JSON web token is there, and the client Cosmos client is there. We are obviously doing the authorization over here. If the email is the intended one, then only we are allowing them to go ahead and get this data. first thing that we are doing is we're going into our job collection area, and here what we are doing is for all the jobs that are there, we are taking the input ID, and then if you look over here, the container that we have is the jobs container. So basically for every candidate we have a job ID stored. So if I'm applying to a job, I will be storing that job ID in our candidate jobs table. But when I have to retrieve it, the details of that particular job needs to be retrieved as well based on the ID. So when we pass the email ID of the applicant, we were able to get all the job IDs to which they have applied, and that is then stored in this job collection. Finally, that job collection is passed as a parameter in this query. Select all from C, where C.job ID is this. Now if you see over here, we have the job containers mentioned as the collection name. So this collection name is then being used over here in the execution of the query. So we are saying container dot items query, and then we are saying query spec, and here we have the results. So this jobs container is then passed over here in database.container collection name, and that becomes the container. And that's why when you execute container.items, it basically executes this query on the jobs container table and gives you the results, which then is passed to the body and returned as a result. So that was get candidate jobs and save candidate. In the next one, we'll be exploring some other methods as well, and then we will move on to the other concepts of Azure serverless applications.